Hi guys, in this series of Node.js from zero to hero, we're going to understand the concept in creating a sample website using handlebars. So now, without any further ado, let's get started. What is handlebars? Handlebars is a templating engine similar to the EJS module in Node. Handlebars can also be used to render web pages to the client side from data on the server side. For better understanding, we're going to create a sample code using handlebars. So let's begin. To start with, I'll be using this template as our default example in creating our website. As you recall, this was used in a previous example. So I'm comfortable using this one because it has the basic logic of our website construction. So let's begin. To do that, I need to create a new folder, and I'm going to call these folders as handlebars. Handlebar website. Then I'll be using VS Code. Okay, now that we have our handlebars, the first thing we need to do is to initialize our Node.js. To do that, I'm going to type npm init. Then we need to apply some information here. So the first one is package name. So I will be this one. Version, description, handlebars in Node.js. Entry point is our server.js. Test command is okay. Same goes. And keywords. Author. License is okay. If you are satisfied with your setup, then just hit enter. Okay, good. Now that we have our handlebars or the package.json, the next thing we need to do is we need to examine our package.json. Okay, good. Now from here, I'm going to start our dependencies. To do that, we need to start with npm install express. Also, I'll be needing express handlebars. Then need to save that. Then hit enter. Okay, good. Now that we're done, we need to clear this one here. The next thing I need to install now is our NodeMon. To do that, we need to type npm install NodeMon. Then we need to save that as dependencies. Hit enter. Good. So let's clear this one here. Okay, let's examine. Now that we have installed our dependencies, let's take a look. So from here, our Express is version 4.17.1, and our Express handlebars is 5.3.2, and our NodeMon dependency is 2.0.7. Okay, good. Now that we're finished on that part, we're going to create our file, so our server entry point. To do that, we need to type this one, server.js. Then I'm going to assign our Express first. Express. Or should I say, call our package Express. Now, from here, I'm going to assign this in app variable. Then I'm going to assign our app listen. So to do that, need to assign the port. So for my port, I'll be using 5000. And with the console information to tell that our server is running on this port. Server is listening on port 5000. Save. So let's try. Since we already have installed our node, the next thing we need to do is to type nodemon. To call that file, simply type nodemon, then server. So that's the name of our file here. Let's hit enter. Okay, good. So now, if this is displayed, so which means our initial code is working. So let's continue. The next thing we need to do is to call or set up our express handlebars. So to do that, we need to type const exp or express handlebars and require express handlebars. Okay, using the handlebars, we're going to set our engine. By default, the extension of our handlebars is .handlebars. So we need to avoid that. So instead of typing this long extension, we're going to simplify that. To do that, instead of handlebars, we're going to simplify this as HBS. And we're going to call the express handlebars. And here, we're going to change our default name to .hbs so that our default in our views, it will be looking for this extension. Okay, so if we're done on that part, the next thing we need to do is to apply the setup view engine. So this will recognize our view engine that we're going to use this extension, HBS. Okay, good. Now that we have prepared our handlebars, the next thing we need to do is we need to create our routings. So to do that, we need to create a folder here, and the name of the folder is routes. Then under routes, I'm going to create a new file, which is index.js. Now from here, I'm going to call that or assign our routes by calling out this module .exports. And we call our function. To start with, going to assign a app variable here, as this was the default here in our server. So we'll be using that or reuse that variables so that we can apply our requests. Our requests going to apply the get request to our default. This is the default website. Then we need to apply the request and response. Okay, good. Now that we have set up our URL, the next thing we need to do is to set up the render. So we need to render our first file. So for this one, I'll be rendering the index file. I'm going to create these renders in our views. Okay, good. Now that we have set up our routes, the next thing we need to do is to call our routes. So to do that, we need to call that in our server. So let's begin by typing bar routes, then the require location. So since it's in our routes, we need to type that slash the routes and the file name of index. So that's the name of our routes here. Okay, after setting up our routes, please take note that we have declared this variable here. So we need to call that in our main server. So to do that, you need to type here the routes and apply the app variable. Good. Now that we have set up our routes, the next thing we need to do is create our view engine folder. So to do that, we need to create a new folder here again and type it as views. Okay, good. Now that we set up our views, we need to create first our default web page, which is the index. So to do that, under views, we're going to create a new file named index.hbs. Okay. So since we don't have a default yet, I'm going to type this as test index. So let's check. Okay, so we need to check everything, make sure that everything is working. Index is the default. So let's try. So from here, I'm going to open our website, our browser. So when you type localhost 5000, there you go. Now, question is, by default, handlebars prefer a default layout. So in here, it recommends that we should create our layouts under this folder here. So it's located under views, layouts, and there should be inside this main HBS. So let's fix that. So to do that, we need to create another file here, another folder. It should be layouts. And we need to create our main. It should be main.hbs. So let's say this is our layouts. So let's see what will happen. Now that I have prepared our HBS layout, let's see what will be shown. So let's try go back here and refresh. There you go. So by default, it will start with the layouts. So notice here, when I create our layouts inside this layouts folder, we also call the index by default, but the default URL is index. So To fix these issues, we can also customize our default layouts. So to do that, let's say I don't want to create main as our layouts here, but instead I'll be using layouts. So to fix that issues, I'm going to assign or create or change our default layouts. To do that, I need to type default layout. And for my default layout, I'm going to name that as layout, simple layout, and save. Okay, so it should be comma. Okay, good. Now that I already changed the default values in our layout, the next thing we need to do is to rename this file here. So instead of main, this time it's layout. So let's try. If I'm going to refresh this one, it will get our layout. Okay, good. Now that we have managed or create our first layout, the next thing we need to do is we'll apply first the HTML layouts for this file here. So we'll apply the basic HTML. So that we will reconnect or connect the issues between this one here. Because as you notice, I declared this inner routes our index. So I should be calling this one instead of this one. So since handlebars are really strict when it comes to layouts, we will work on the relationship between the layouts and the index file. So let's start. To start with, I'm going to start with the doc type. And our HTML with the language of English. And under the HTML, I have the head. Then under the head, I'm going to assign the meta tags, charset equals to UTF-8. Let's close that. And here I'm going to assign a title. Our title by default is HTML5 website. Okay, good. Now that we have our head, need to check this one as well. Okay. Very good. Now we're focusing on the body. So for the body, the first thing I need to set up is the header. Our header. So by default, my header is wiki Citipedia. Then to be followed with the navigation. For the navigation, going to assign the anchor hyperlink here, or London. Okay, so this is the setup that I set up. So as I explained this one, the hashtag here indicates that this is an ID of London. It will going to look for a ID named London. Let's continue. For navigation, going to include the Paris. This one here is Tokyo. Now from here, we're going to apply our article. Then under the article, we're going to assign our section. In our section, we're going to assign a header with an ID of London. So this is London. So also we need to apply for the rest of the navigation. So this is for Paris. And this one is Tokyo. Okay, so we're done on the article, and I need to complete this one. I'll be needing also a paragraph with the information. So by default, this is the calling tag for paragraph. So for the information, I'm going to get our previous example. So we're going to paste here just to save our time. This is for London. Next is for Paris. And the last one is for Tokyo. Now, if you're wondering where did I get this information, I just took it from Wikipedia. So you can copy this definition on that site. Okay, cool. So we already set up our article. So the last one is we need to set up our footer. To do that, we need to type footer with a copyright, and copy 2021. Okay, so there you go. I think everything is okay now. Okay, let's view in our browser. I have to refresh this one. Okay, so there you go. So this is our, or should I say, these are now working with our layouts. So the next thing we need to do here is header. Okay, so now that we're done with our layout, the next thing we need to do is we need to apply the relationship between this index and layout. Take note, layout is under layouts, while index is under views. Now, to connect the relationship between the two, the next thing we need to do is we need to split the content of our layouts. So to do that, let's concentrate on the body. So let's say I'm going to copy this one here. Okay, then I'm going to paste that in our index. Okay, so from our layout, to call our index, we need to assign a body include version. So this is the way of calling that one. So to do that, need to type in this manner. So 3 curly braces and then type body. That's right. Let's refresh this one here. There you go. So as you can see, it performs the same way as what we did in our layout. So what happened here? For the explanation, this is what happened a while ago. By default, our layout is searching for this folder. So it searches under this folder under views, layouts, and the file name layout. Since this is a layout, whenever or if you're going to prefer to change with the default browser, let's say for this one, I forcing index to be our default, but instead it is still getting our layouts here. So what happened here is that by default, layout should be on the topmost border or the parent website of the entire website or in the entire approach in your system. So this is the layout, this is the default. So to apply the relationship between the index and layout, we need to extract the information within the layout. So that is why I pull out the information here and apply in our index. Make sense? Okay, so that's it. So this is how you call our information from index to layout. But in running or in reality, the default of the program is running index. So since layout will be the first page to display, index will be on top of most of that layout. Okay, now question is, how do we apply our partials? To do that, we need to create a new folder here, named partials. So from partials, this is the simplest part. So we need to split everything in our body or in our index and apply one by one in our partials. So let's begin with header. .hps, and from header, I'm going to cut this one here. Then from our next one is the navigation. So navigation, create a file here, nav.hps. Oops. I'm going to cut this one here and put in our navigation. Save. Now next, going to get also this article. So create a new file here named article.hps. Then from index, I'm going to split also the footer. And paste it here. Okay, good. Now that we have already separate our or arrange our partials, so question is, how do we call that in our index? Okay, to do that, the way on how to call this partial is by simply type the curly braces and with this greater sign here, and we need to type the name of the file. So since this is the header, I want to start with the header. So I'm going to copy this one. After the header, the next one is the navigation. That's the name of our file. And after the navigation, the article. Okay, now that we have our article, the last one is the footer. Okay, good. Now let's check. Let's refresh our browser. There you go. As you can see, it works the same. So let's go back with our setup here. Okay, so let's examine. For better understanding, in handlebars or the express handlebars has a default folder. So like this one, a while ago, it detects for the layout, it knows that this is the default folder for the layouts. And for our partials, partial folders or these partials here is recognized in handlebars. So if you declare this as partial, it will automatically recognize by our main system. So, and during the or retrieving those information, these curly braces here represent as our partials. Okay, so I guess that's clear. Now let's complete our setup. Now that we have completed our setup, the next thing we need to do is to apply the CSS. So to do that, we need to assign our static folder. So to do that, we need to call our static folder. So to do that, we need to type the app use, and we need to get this package with extension of static. By our default folder, since this is, you need to set up our default for our static, I believe I'll be using public folder. Okay, so now that we have set up our public, we're going to create that in our project here. Let's create new project, a new folder, and that is our public. So now that we have our public, the next thing we need to do is create a folder for our CSS. So for the file name for CSS is style.css. To save our time in coding, I'm going to paste my preferred CSS for this one. So this is from our previous example. Okay, good. Seems we're okay here. Now the next thing we need to do now is assign this or call this in our main website. So to do that, we need to check our setup here. So it should be in our layouts. So since the head is available in here, so we need to call that file. So to do that, we need to type link, type text/css, and the rel is the style sheet. With a hyperlink reference as css/style.css. Okay. As you remember, the CSS already declared in our public. So instead of typing public, this time it will automatically detect within this folder here. So let's check our website. From here, going to refresh. There you go. So notice that everything here is working. So let's check why this one is small. Let's check our code. Should be the header. Okay, I think header is fine. So let's check the rest. Body. Article section. Footer. Oh, let's check here. Our body is okay. HTML. That's weird. Article, footer, header. Our header seems to have a problem. Oh. Okay, so I think I know. Because this one should be bigger. So I'm going to assign that in h1 tag. So it should be in h1 tag. There you go. Then we'll refresh our website. Very good. Now that we have managed our purse, okay, so I think this one is okay. So to complete our code, we need to apply our images. If, as you can see, our previous example, I put some images here. So let's call those information so that we can complete our website. So to do that, let's go back in our public folder. I'm going to create a folder named images. Okay, from here, I'm going to copy my images folder. From images, reveal in File Explorer. I'm going to paste it in our public folder. Okay, good. So let's close this one here. Let's check. There you go. So now that we have our image files, the next thing we need to do is to assign that in our article. So let's proceed with our article. Okay, let's do this one by one. So from London, we want to assign that image. We need to type image source, and our source is on seems it's not okay, so I think it's in by default, so it should be images slash the name of the file, so that is london.jpg. Okay, so we have already applied our image for London. Next, we need to apply that also in Paris. And the last one in Tokyo. Okay, good. Now that we have managed or finished our setup in this section here, let's go back to our website and let's refresh. Okay, and there you go. Okay, good. Oops, there's a problem with the footer, so I need to check our footer. Let's go back here. Let's check our footer. Should be N. Save. Let's refresh. Footer. Okay, good. Okay, so I think we already completed our website. So yeah, so that's it. We already finished everything. Now to test if our menu is working, we need to click London. Good, it's working. Now if I click Paris, it's working. The last one is Tokyo. Okay, good. Let's go back to our code. Okay, so that's it, guys. Don't worry, I'm going to post this code in our GitHub. But for now, if you find this video informative, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. And see you guys on the next video series. Cheers!